This is what we're all here for. Is this the best piece of resin art that I have ever made or that you've ever seen? And people's jaws are going to drop. Right, we are back with another absolutely incredible resin art video. I know I say that every time. Right, so many of you probably saw my previous video where we played around with these absolutely stunning pieces and the coaster, which I've actually got at home. I haven't got it at the studio. Haven't checked that video out, go and check it out. What we did with this is we used a titanium dioxide solution with some alcohol and sprayed it on the back of our resin, then we lasered it. Now, I had some comments and I actually had some personal messages also. People concerned about the fact that I'd put a video out there using a laser on resin. Again, I did stress in that video the safety, you know, the warnings. I also pinned a comment, etc. I mean, it is dangerous, but like I said, if you follow those, if you follow that advice, then you will be fine, honestly. But for those who are still worried about that, we're going to do things a little bit differently. We're going to do a similar thing. I'm not going to go through the image generation. I also got some hate from that as well. I'm not going to go through that, but I am going to use some of the same images as the previous video, but we are going to take that step further and go into some color. And we're going to do this in a different way. We're not going to laser the actual resin. I'm going to show you something different that I've worked on, and yeah, I've kind of mastered it perfectly. It's absolutely insane. And I'm also going to experiment with a different idea for this video. I haven't tried it yet, but it should hopefully, fingers crossed, work. So for this one, we are going in with the Little Windows Dichro-ish films. You've seen me use these a lot on the channel. They are really incredible films. So what we're going to do differently this time is I'm going to spray paint the film with some matte black. Again, similar to the Norton white tile effect people are using with the laser systems. We're basically going to tape some of this onto a ceramic tile just to hold it in place, because the laser system's got an extraction system. I don't want that blowing around inside, so I'm going to need to tape that down. I have done this before, but I haven't tried the other experiment. So we're going to tape that down, spray paint it black, and then we are going to laser. This is how incredible this is, because this stuff is probably thinner than a human hair, and I'm going to laser this without melting or really affecting the film whatsoever. This is how precise this laser system is, and this is why I wanted to stress with the previous video that I'd tailored that. I'd played around for 2 weeks to get the settings so that it only affected the titanium dioxide on the back of the resin. It's that precise. So with this, I'm going to show you I can laser this and still keep the film, which will give us the color. But what we need to do differently with this idea is that we need to invert the image on the program. And it's a really simple, just a click of a button, it inverts the image. So I'll show you that in the program anyway. So I'm going to cut this down a bit, tape it, and then spray it. And then just where I touched it without any gloves and you can see some fingerprints, I'm just going to clean those off. They might be on the other side, it doesn't matter. And then I'm going to take this outside, and I'm only going to give it one thin coat with this. Because I'm going to be doing this with epoxy, with UV resin. So I need my light to still be able to cure. And again, I have got a very powerful lamp for this. But the safest way of doing this without any curing issues would be with epoxy. So there it is, ready to go. Just make sure that it is fully dry before we put this into the laser system, because it's going to be flammable. So yeah, give it a good 20 minutes, half an hour to just fully dry. Then we can proceed with the settings. And the good thing about this is you could do multiple images on this, because we're only really working with small cabochons. So we could fit on quite a few different designs that you want, and just run the whole job in one go in the laser. It's entirely up to you, but I'm only going to show you one or two. So here we are again in the XTool XCS program. I'm just going to quickly load one of the images that I used in my last video.
This software is super easy to use, it really is. So I'm just going to open one of the images. I'm going to do a couple, but I'll only show one, quickly edit. And it's the settings that you need to get really right for this. So you're not going to actually burn through or cut the Dichro-ish films. So I'm just going to take an image quickly of the inside of the machine, just so you can see the tile that I've already put in there. So the imaging with the XTool F1 Ultra can sometimes be a little bit dark, so you just quickly take another image and normally it just rectifies itself. I'm not sure why why it does that. That's better, we can see properly now. So we can resize this to whatever size we want, but shortly I'll put a cabochon in there just to scale it. So like I said, what we need to do now is just go up here to adjust, and we need to invert the image. Because we've used a black spray paint, it's different to using the white solution that we used last time. So this is telling the laser to laser away the whiter areas of the design. So what we can do here is play around with the grayscale settings. Now each image can differ, so I would suggest just having a little play around with this until you get the image right. But yeah, it is really simple. So once we've got the grayscale settings for this image correct, so it shows some good depth, we can then move on to the actual proper settings. So we're not going to burn through and melt that Dichro-ish film. So basically we need to run this on the fiber laser, and the lowest dot duration that's possible, I think it's 40. So we're going to run this on really low settings, and the power range again really low. So the laser dot is only in one position for a very short time at low power. So this is only going to affect the black spray paint, similar to the previous video with the titanium dark side. So yeah, the DPI, we're going to crank that up to 700, so it's really detailed. One pass and in grayscale bitmap. Is that the word? Bitmap mode? Yeah. So now what I'm going to do is just take an image again with a 30 by 40 millimeter cabochon inside. I'm going to take it out afterwards, just so I can kind of size up the job that I need to do. But again, you could do multiple jobs in there at the same time. Yep, once I'm happy, just move that to the side, tuck it into the corner, so I'm not going to be lasering the tape, and take out that cabochon ready to start the job. And again with this, whenever you put something into the laser, always make sure you set your focus straight away, because there's been instances where I've just completely forgotten. You don't want to mess that part up. So yeah, once it's ready, just click start. It sends the image over to the laser, and I think this took about 4.5 minutes, if I remember rightly. Yeah, almost 5 minutes just for that one job. And here you can see the machine doing its thing over that 5 minutes, and then I quickly run another job through straight afterwards.
Okay, so what we are left with, I did 2 designs as you just saw me, same settings, but you can see, I mean, we've got some really nice colour in this now, and it will depend on the background colour that we use on these as well to enhance the colour, but it hasn't melted. I mean, look at the absolutely insane detail these have got. It's ridiculous, and you can shrink these images even down even more. And I'm thinking like nail art. If you could do this with nail art, it's limitless. But that is absolutely phenomenal. And once we've got this in a resin cabochon, you wait till you see how much this pops. And it is really easy. I know I could fit more on this, but just for the video, it's not going to go to waste. I can always cut these out and tape it back down and do some different designs. I'm looking at my camera instead of my hands. Let me just quickly take all this tape off. And now on a black background. I mean, these films come in lots of different colours. I'll show you another one that I made also at the end. They come in lots of different colours that you can kind of play around with and get different effects. But what we can do now with this is a few options. I mean, we could cut them out and then put them in resin and then kind of seal it in afterwards. You could do so much with this, and you could do it obviously on a larger scale, smaller scale. But yeah, so what I'm going to do now is just make up a couple of resin cabochons, and then we'll move on to the next step. So like I said, the way I'm going to be doing this is with UV resin. It's just quick and easier for me, but you can do this with epoxy. Again, you can cut these out, lay them on, let the epoxy cure and back them. It's entirely up to you, but I'm just going to be doing it with epoxy. Now, the reason why I'm not cutting these out and laying them on UV resin, sorry. The reason why I'm not cutting these out and laying them on the UV resin, then curing it, is because the heat and this film can cause the film to ripple. And distort the image. So I'm going to do it the transfer way. So I'm going to make the UV resin cabochon, and then I'm going to rest that over the top to transfer that image or cut it out. You'll see what I mean when we get to that step. So I'm just using the Let's Resin UV clear hardtype for this. I'm just going to top 2 of these up so they're flat with the surface of the mold. So now we have our 2 cured resin cabochons ready to go. It's important to let these cool down, because if you try and position these on the film, what's going to happen is the heat generated is still going to be hot. So what's going to happen is it's going to fuse itself to the film, and then you're going to find yourself in a little bit of a predicament. So let them fully cure down before we move on to the next step. Again, you can cut these down if you want to make things easier. It's entirely up to you. So I'm just going to apply some UV resin to the film, and then we're going to take our cabochon. This might not work first time, you might have to lift the cabochon and do it again, but we don't want any bubbles. And we're just going to slowly lower that onto the film and position it where we want. I'm probably going to get a couple of bubbles on this because it's typical. It will happen whilst I'm trying to film and show you. And just give it a gentle push down if you need to, just to get a good seal. And then I'm going to give that 60 seconds under the lamp and then turn it and cure it on the back also. But again, I'm using a beast of a UV lamp for this. So I can now carefully turn that over and give it another 60 seconds. And this is why I also said use one coat, one fine coat of the spray paint, because if you can see my fingers through the film, so that is still allowing a certain level of the UV light to penetrate through to give this a good cure. But if you're not sure, you could use a handheld torch, for example, and just get it really close so you know it's kind of shining through and still giving that a cure, because you don't want any uncured resin. But again, safer option, use epoxy. You haven't got to worry. So what I can now do is just snip that off. I can tidy that up in a bit, because I'm now going to very quickly off camera do the other one. So it's crazy, isn't it? Is absolutely crazy. So we're going back to the first one, but look at the way we can kind of concentrate. We can use the light. I mean, it's phenomenal, guys. Look, I mean, if I turn my flash on, I'm not going to do it yet, I'll show you at the end, but this is resin art on a whole new level. When I said in my last video that this is kind of the future of resin art, I hope you can understand and pop it in the comments that, I mean, the way this is going, you can't do this, you know. Like I said in the last video as well, you could do things like this with temporary tattoos, but you just don't get that level of detail, and you can't kind of make your own. Or can you? I don't know. The way that you can with this kind of AI imaging, even personalized photos you can do this with. But the way the light works with these pieces is on a whole new level. It's like the butterflies really lighting up the piece. So yeah, anyway, I've kind of got a little bit lost there. As you can imagine, I've had quite a bit of fun with this. We can just cut around these, then back them. Because my mold is really dull, I'm going to dip it just to give it a really nice finish. But yeah, just give it a good clean up. Now, the other piece, I got a little bit, I had a few bubbles. So I had to keep lifting it off and putting it back on. But what I'm going to do with this one, it's very, very dull. It's not as good as the other one. But what I'm going to show you now is kind of where I want to go with this experimenting, trying something different. Is when I was testing to see if the resin had cured under the film, what I did is I just peeled the film away. What you can see now is that the image, again, it's not brilliant because the piece is so dull. It's transferred onto the cabochon. So that led me on to thinking about trying something different to see if we can do this without using, I mean, acetate should work, normal plastic, just experiment because you don't want it bonding. But to be able to transfer it like this opens up a whole new window, because we could, if you wanted to, you could use glow powders. I have done this, I'll show you one. But I did it using this film. When I peeled that away, I then ventured into the glow powder kind of side of things, but I haven't tried it with the method that I want to try next. Yeah, you could hand paint the back of this and then seal it in. It kind of opens up a whole new, you know, backing effect area into this. So I mean, you saw how easy that film kind of peeled away from the back of the other piece. So dipping it is also going to hold everything in place. So be careful around the edges when you're cutting it. You don't want it pulling away because that could cause further problems. So once it's all cleaned up, what we do is we just gently give the surface a sand and then we can dip it. But to make it even kind of stronger, because if I was to glue my stick, we've gone through this before on the channel, if I was to glue my stick to the back of this film and then dip it, there's a risk that the weight of the cabochon is going to peel the film away. So what we can do is just give this a backing with maybe a white or a black resin. I'm going to go with a white on this one. And then that gives us something to bond our stick to for the dipping. But yeah, I'm going to give it a gentle sand and yeah, we can move on. And this is why the epoxy version would have been easier, because you could cut that down, put it in the epoxy and then back it, and it's all sealed in. I'm just being a bit riskier with the UV resin side. So I've just got a small bit of UV resin in my cup. Not too much pigment, not too much white pigment, otherwise it's not going to cure through. So there she is sanded. I'm just going to glue my stick on the back and then we can dip it. There we go. But what I'm going to do before I dip this and we see the results, I'm going to quickly go into this other idea. So what I want to try now is just doing the same thing, but instead of on the Dichro-ish films, I want to try it on some sticky tape. It's packaging tape. It's quite a wide one, so I know that the cabochon and the design can fit on this. So what I'm going to do is exactly the same thing, but I'm just going to stick this directly onto the ceramic tile, spray it black, and then hopefully we've kind of got our own DIY sticker in a way. And I should be able to run this with exactly the same settings that I did on the film, because I know that as long as the focus is right and the power's really low, it's not going to melt the tape, hopefully. So this is the results of the tape. And I'm quite stunned that it's, well, stunned, quite shocked that it's worked so well. But, I mean, it should really, we shouldn't really have any issues. I didn't do a wonderful job of sticking that tape down, you can see some bubbles. But the true test will be, can I peel it off? Off camera. So, I mean, you couldn't just go and use that as a sticker because you got that issue of the rest of the paint kind of rubbing off. But we should still be able to use that in Resin Art the same way that we can use the film. But again, photograph results, that looks so real. So in theory this should work on vinyls, lots of different things. But yeah, that's crazy considering it's so thin and it's not affected the tape. It's only taken off that surface black paint, and that's what makes that XTool F1 Ultra so precise. And like I said, hopefully that will take away some worry from my previous video about the laser interacting too much with the resin, because you know, I'm showing you just how precise and safe this is to use on a very, very thin tape. So hope that puts some minds at rest. So what I'm going to do is stick the sellotape to just a coaster mold, just to hold it in place. And I've already made up 2 cabochons. Oh no, see, that's a risk. You have to be really careful not to rub the surface. Oops. And you can see there where I've moved it, I've lost some detail. So yeah, I mean, I'm gonna proceed just to see if it does transfer the same way. But it is a shame. But it was just an idea. Maybe I'll just do the one. It would have been perfect had I not touched it all, but it is what it is, guys. We're not all perfect. Mistakes happen. So again, gonna rest that cabochon on the top and cure it on both sides. And the good thing about this mold is that I can still flip the mold with the tape on and cure it from the underneath. I don't know what to do, because I'm now, my brain's thinking if I was to cut around this, I've still got the sticky back of the tape. What I could potentially do is brush that with some chameleon flakes, but I think where I've just touched it, it's already come loose. So I need to just peel that away and hope that what was left of the image has transferred to the cabochon, which it has. You can see some bubbles in there. There was no point me being too careful with this because I've lost some of the detail when I was touching it. But with the films, I mean, this is another one that I did. I mean, it doesn't do that like it did on the tape. So I think because the tape is really shiny, it's kind of flaked away. Look, if I was to brush this one, I think it just depends on the area. Yeah, it's just, I mean, it works. We can see it works if you don't touch it too much. Yeah, again, that gives us an opportunity to play around with the backing on that. And it's an alternative to spraying the, I mean, you could, if you wanted to do it that way, just spray the resin cabochon with black spray paint and then use those settings. It should work, but for those who don't want to do that, we have another option. But this is what we're all here for. I think this is going to be an absolute stunner. Right, so I've got my lamp set up next to me, ready to turn on, and we dip this in the UV resin, let the excess strip off for a minute or so, and then we keep turning that under the lamp as it cures. I had to move my mask, it was sliding down my head. Right, here we go, guys. The moment of truth. Just gonna let that excess run off before I flip it. So, is this the best piece of resin art that I have ever made, or that you've ever seen? That is pretty phenomenal, if I do say so myself. The way that colour and the light work, and look at the way look at that, the way that gold comes through. That is some crazy stuff there. Let me turn my flash on. So this is with the flash on, not much of a difference, but you can see, I mean, if you was to wear this outside with more light, that's really going to attract some eyes if you're walking down the street with that. or if you're out and about and that catches a certain light, and people's jaws are going to drop. And then at certain lights you've got that kind of evening vibe, sunset vibe. It really does shift depending on the viewing angle. So that really brings us to the end of the video. The tape worked, packaging tape, needs a bit of work I suppose, but again it opens that window of different backgrounds, different colours. I could do this with different colour spray paints I suppose as well. So I've got a couple of others. So this is the first one that I did as an experiment with a different colour film. And it works just as well. I do prefer the one that we've just made though, because I do love that gold. But this one's kind of a bit more magical. You might have seen this, I showed it on a different platform. Ignore the surface, I need to fix that, but it is absolutely phenomenal. So when I said earlier in the video that I peeled one away and I kind of played around with that using the Dichro-ish films. So when I peeled it away, I then thought this was a design with some jellyfish. So what I did with this one was once I peeled it away and it was left with these windows where the designs are, I coated the back of this one with a glow powder. I did the whole back with glow powder. And when this glows, it is absolutely phenomenal. But it was just a trial run. It was just a test piece. I'll show you in a moment of how realistic this piece looks in low light once fully charged. This was another one I played around with kind of, you've got like a river. It's really tricky to see this one though. You've got the trees, and what I was trying to get was like the Northern Lights effect. Didn't quite work, but it does reflect off the water quite well, but it is really tricky to see, which was a shame. In the correct light, we'd try with the flash on. So that's with the flash on. And when you catch it in a certain angle, it really does pop out the details, and you can see those trees a bit better. Again, it's quite scuffed, but you can see the potential for this. And then again, the one that we've just made. But as always, give the video a thumbs up, drop me a comment if you haven't subbed. Again, it's free, hit that button, help the channel grow. It's been a while since I posted last, so the algorithms are going to really dislike me for a short time, so be sure to share the video and interact with it. But I'm going to show you that glow one quickly, and I will see you all for the next video. Bye for now. But look how 3D that looks, the way that's lasered is absolutely incredible.